And as people struggle to find affordable housing, the housing market is actually short more than 4 million homes nationwide. According to new data from Zillow, between 2021 and 2022, nearly 2 million new families came into the housing market around the country, but only 1.4 million homes were built in that same time. Taking a look at Charlotte during that time, researchers say they found the city was short more than 18,000 homes.
Affordable housing is really for everyone, right? Everybody wants housing that's affordable.
Affordable housing is not a poor people problem. It's a quality of our community problem. We need to be making investments in affordable housing, and virtually every elected official across both parties are aware of that today.
So the thing about affordable housing is just so complex. Number one, we don't have enough units. There's a unit deficit. Number two, we're getting rid of the units that we do have that are currently renting affordably. Number three, we have this benefits cliff challenge, which prevents people from taking those raises so that they can afford housing. And as people lose benefits, the income gains that they're making are not offsetting the benefits that they're losing, from food stamps to childcare, and that's called a benefits cliff. And number four, there's so many people in our community that are living paycheck to paycheck. And if one small thing happens that they often have no control over, like a flat tire, it can unravel everything else, setting a domino effect that can lead to an eviction.
You know, they're squatting, they're living in tents. Some of them are living in hotels in really not great areas.
I ended up losing my home. I ended up losing, of course, everything that I'd worked for, everything that I had. I still had my job, but, you know, eventually that was gone. And I was just like, well, okay, what do you do? So I picked myself up, dusted myself off, and started all over again.
About 5 years ago, maybe 6, you could find an apartment for rent in Charlotte for like $800, $900, and families who were making $12 an hour could scrounge everything together and potentially afford that payment. Now, less than 1% of units in Charlotte-Mecklenburg rent for below $1,000 a month. So for families who are making $12, $13, $14 an hour, there's literally no way they can afford to live.
Sometimes there's a stereotype of individuals that might just be living off of the federal government. That's really not the case. I mean, we have families that are out here every single day working 40, 60 hours a week that can't afford to live here in Charlotte.
And the lady said, "I'm sorry, I got a cash offer about 12:30 last night, and I took that. They're not going to do any due diligence. They're going to buy it as is, cash for my price." And I was done. At that point, I was done. I was like, okay, well, it's not meant for me to have a house, and this is probably how a lot of people feel.
We're talking about firemen, talking about nurses, we're talking about the teller at your bank. These are the families that we're talking about that needs affordable housing.
You had to have a job. You couldn't get a housing choice voucher without being employed. And I think a lot of people don't know that. There's a lot of stigma behind having a Section 8 voucher, being a part of the housing choice program.
People correlate Section 8 to affordable housing, and that's the definition that a lot of people have in their brains. But the definition is, if you're paying more than 30% of your household income towards your rent, then you're living in unaffordable housing. It's not affordable for you. Your housing burden. And the reality is that I think it's over 60% of our population here in Charlotte is actually housing burdened, which is wild to think about. We can do something about this, but it will take a coordinated effort where we stay in our lanes and we all bring to bear our unique assets and skill sets and start to chip away at this issue.
I'm a real estate developer. I've been doing that my whole career, and so I call it a divine burden the Lord put on my heart to say, okay, I'm a real estate guy. What can I be doing to deal with, maybe make a dent a little bit in the affordable housing area? It's a big problem, and big problems take, kind of big solutions, and no one group can do it alone. And so it is pretty easy to get discouraged. And then I just remember, you're making a difference, one family at a time.
On October 28th of 2022, I walked into this house, and as the owner, I can now say I'm the owner. Walked in with my keys, and I kind of stood right there in my empty living room. There was nothing in it. And I just I cried a little bit, but it hadn't hit me. You know what I mean? It was still like, pinch me, is this really happening? Did I really just buy a house? The people in and live in that took the walk with me were amazing. And they walked every step with me from the beginning all the way until I signed that last document. They were right there.
Yeah, at Freedom Communities, we really work across the continuum of affordable housing, from eviction prevention to workforce development to helping people increase their wages so that they can actually afford housing, then getting into actual transitional housing, affordable rental housing, and then getting into affordable homeownership.
Let's roll up our sleeves and try to figure out solutions that we can agree upon to try to advance some of these challenges that face our communities.
But then I think churches and others can help rally around individuals by creating funding available for rental assistance, for eviction support, for credit support.
Churches are starting to really step up and say, hey, we may have some assets that can come to play. And I've been privileged to talk with several who have some excess land, and they're saying, what can we do? And we're bringing together the partners, True Homes, Crosland, et cetera, that are willing to build affordable homes at cost or less. The church can put up the land, and it's really beautiful to see a church become a neighborhood again, like kind of the old days were.
On a national level, and a lot of municipalities are having housing trust funds. We have a housing trust fund here in Charlotte, which is fantastic. It helps cover some of the gaps in creating affordable housing.
When Olivia stepped in and said, okay, we got an apartment for you, then I was like, okay, I'll take it. Well, when I walked in to the apartment, I was actually happy, because I'm like, okay, I got a place to stay. I'm not gonna be out in the street. I'm not gonna be homeless. I don't have to worry about this anymore. I can afford this, I can pay the rent, so I'm good. I am good. And I felt much, much better than I did.
When somebody walks through a house for the first time and it's their house, there's nothing like it. It's emotional, but it means so much more than just a new place to live, because it may change their family for generations.
The affordable housing problem, one family at a time, and you start thinking about the multi-generational aspects, because there's parents and there's kids, sometimes there's grandparents as well, and then creating stable housing, which will help these kids stay in school and learn and breed and not only survive but thrive, and then the legacy that they'll leave. I mean, the generational legacy, it doesn't take long to say, okay, we'll stay in the battle and keep plugging along.
There is a lot of hope, because when we get families into stable housing, those children will be better off. The next generation will be better off. And that's what this work is. It's generational work. This is not work that snap your fingers and it's done. But we need people coming alongside and being part of the fight, because the next generation of our community, of our nation, depends on it. That's what gives me hope. That's why I do this work, because I know that all of the families in our city and all of the families that walk through our door have infinite value and dignity and potential. And sometimes they just need someone else to believe that and demonstrate that through action.